Alright, hi guys. So today our focus is on how we add and subtract decimals. And so what I want to do for a second is I want to connect it with something that you already know, and that's just adding regular numbers without decimals. And so when I want to add these two numbers together, here I have 134 plus 21. Well, I have a 3-digit number with hundreds, tens, and ones, and then I have a 2-digit number with tens and ones. And so whenever I want to go add them, I want to make sure that when I line up the 21, I'm going to line up the 2 with the 3. And what is the reason I do that? Well, of course, because the 10s on 34 and the 10s in 21 have to be lined up. Same thing for the 4 and the 1. I have to line up the 1s with the 1s. Okay, and then I can add, because I add the 1s with the 1s, I add the 10s with the 10s, and I add the hundreds, okay, in order to get my answer. Okay, whenever we add and subtract decimals, it's the same concept. Okay, so if I have a number like 13 and 56 hundredths, and I want to add that with 21 and 4 tenths, I have to do the same thing. Okay, I have to line up common values with common values. So again, I have 13. I'm going to go ahead and write my first number, 13 and 56 hundredths. And then now I'm going to line them up. 21, here I've got my 10s with my 10s. 2 goes with the 1. My 1 goes with the 1s. Now my decimal gets lined up as well. So notice how decimals get lined up, because they'll help keep everything in line. Whenever you add and subtract, if you line up the decimals, it helps keep everything in line. And so now I have 4 tenths. I'm going to line it up with this 5 here because that's in the tenths place value spot, and then it allows me to add. Well, people will say, hey, well, what about here? I notice you've got a number that's missing right here. Well, whenever we're working with decimals, if I put a 0 there at the end of the number, it doesn't change the value of this number. It doesn't change how much it's worth. It just creates a digit there for me to work with. Okay? And so now I'm ready to add. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 5 plus 4 is 9. And that's in my tenths spot. Then I have 3 plus 1 in the ones place value spot. That gives me a 4. And the 2 plus 1 in the tens place value spot. And that gives me a 3. So my answer is 34 and 96 hundredths. Okay? So let's try another one now. Let's pretend that we're subtracting. Okay, so this time I'm going to subtract 2 decimals. Let's say that I have 21 and 5 tenths. And from that I'm going to subtract 6 and 41 hundredths. Okay, so again, what I need to think about when I'm working this problem is, first write my first number, 21 and 5 tenths. And then I'm going to subtract from that 6 and 41 hundredths. So since I have only a number in the ones place value spot, that 6 is going to go right here in the ones place value spot. Again, I line up my decimal. And now I have a 4 in the tenths place value spot. And then a 1 in the hundredths place value spot. Okay? Now when I subtract here, this is where it gets tricky, and this is where sometimes as 5th grade students we forget to do this important part. Okay? Here, again, just like I was talking about earlier, when I put a 0 here in this spot, it doesn't change the value of 21 and 5 tenths. Okay? It doesn't change the value of it all, but now I have a digit here that I can work with in order to subtract. Okay? So now it's time to do that subtraction. So, if I have 0 minus 1, I can't do that. If I have nothing, I can't take 1 away from it, so I have to do some regrouping. So I'm going to go over here to the 5, borrow from the 5, borrow a set of 10s from the 5, and so now that becomes a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9, 4 minus 4 is 0. Decimal point gets brought down. Oops, doggone it. Mess up here. Correct. We've got a decimal point right there. Sorry about that. And then Now I can't do 1 minus 6. So again, I have to do some regrouping. So I'm going to go over here to the 2 and borrow a set of 10s from the 2. So now I have 1 set of 10s. And since I brought a 10 over to the 1, 10 plus 1 is now 11. So 11 minus 6 is 5. And 1 minus 0, that's just like a little 0 there. 1 minus 0 is 1. So my answer, let's rewrite this a little bit better because this does not look very nice. My answer is 15 and 9/100. Okay? And so now I have my answer when I subtract. So the keys for whenever you are adding and subtracting with decimals is that you need to line up the decimal so that you can, I don't know what happened with my A here, so you can line up the decimal, and then that way the like values, like the ones, hundreds, tens, are being subtracted and added together. Like values are being added and subtracted together. Because you know what, if I didn't do that, then I'd be taking a problem like this when we talked about it. That would be like me creating a problem. That would be me taking 134 plus 21 and maybe doing this. Okay, and we know that's not correct because now I'm putting hundreds with a 10 and a 10 with a 1. Okay, that's not okay. So by lining up the decimal here, I'm able to line up like values and get my correct answer. So anytime that you are adding and subtracting with decimals, the first thing you have to do is put those like values together. And by doing that, if you line up the decimal, everything should line up correctly. Okay? All right, good luck.